don't like seeing Americans treated as third class citizens. I don't like seeing Americans who are subject to the horrors and the malfunction and the dysfunction of the third world. There's a privilege and a birthright, no matter who you are, when you were born here in this country. California is a place that has a lot of problems. But we also believe, and the senator disagrees with us, but it doesn't matter, I don't care. I'm also going to present to you an enormous amount of evidence that these fires are not natural disasters. And the reason I'm going to do this, and the reason why I've been hammering at this since 6 a.m. this morning on X, is because they're gonna do the same thing. You're already starting to see it. They're gonna literally blame global warming on these fires, instead of their own woke DEI incompetence. They're going to blame the planet. What an unbelievable skate. What a despicable scapegoat. They're gonna say it's the planet's fault. It's not single party rule. Unified trifecta. California has had single party Democrat rule from the governorship, the House, and the Senate for over 20 years. It's not us, they'll say. It's just the world. I'm already starting to see it. It's starting to make me very angry. And we have certified evidence that it's actually not global warming. That these fires are being set and started on purpose. The fires that are appearing make no sense. And also the confluence of idiotic policies and degenerate leadership that can't even answer basic questions or read URLs is quite literally to blame for this. So it really is the perfect storm, quite frankly, of failed left-wing policies. And innocent Americans are being affected, and makes me very angry. And you know that I had a lot of anger and righteous indignation when this was happening to the working class people of Lahaina in Maui. And the same thing is now happening here. And so you as an American should share that indignation, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into this, because I think this is really, really important. This jackass, this son of a bitch. I don't like this guy. This guy's like has the physiognomy of a sociopath. You ever heard this guy talk? This is a clip. Hey, Alex, I don't know if we have this clip loaded. Let me know. This is a clip of him saying, "It's not my fault." Anderson Cooper goes, why isn't there any water in the fire hydrants while all these homes are burning behind him? And he's literally the "it's fine dog" meme. This is actually this is the everything's fine dog meme. He goes, "Not my fault. No, somebody else is gonna have to figure that out." This is the actual actions of a sociopath. California has been failed by two things. One, the idiot degeneracy of their leaders and their woke policies. And two, the destruction of California society, which doesn't create a society of high trust, creates a society of low trust, loneliness, and vagrancy. Listless and broken people doing listless and broken things. So I'm going to jump into a couple of things that I want to share about the fires and why I don't believe that these fires are just happening naturally, because actually that's not what happens in nature. A bunch of fires don't start all at the same time. Man, I saw this photo from last night of a helicopter flying over the Hollywood Hills, and I was like, nope. This looks like intentional eco-terrorism. This is not natural, and it's beginning to look like eco-terrorism. It looks like someone's trying to take advantage of the incompetence and dysfunction in California. And then lo and behold, as I search the greater internet, I'm starting to notice that people of California are posting random fires that clearly have accelerants on them. Here's a dumpster that's burning next to a power line, next to a wooden power line. Somebody is clearly placing accelerant inside of the dumpster. Random citizen right here, not even verified, said, "I'm hearing the problem that people are thinking that it's arsonists that are starting fires in the Valley area, Studio City, NoHo, and Burbank. With my own eyes, I know that they are. I hope that all the fires are contained and put out by tomorrow. Please be safe." Here, ladies and gentlemen, is a dude. I don't know any of these people. This guy's in my timeline this morning. My neighbor saw a small fire start at 5 o'clock above our house in the Hollywood Hills in Runyon Canyon. hiking trail. I asked him what he thought was going on. The guy says, arson. There's no power lines up there. Somebody started this intentionally. Look at what this dude has to see outside of his house. Here we go. There is an arsonist here in LA. May you be beaten unrecognizable for the pain you have caused. Says Henry Winkler. I think this is actually legitimately Henry Winkler. It's like a pretty famous Hollywood actor. Yeah, he's got 1 million followers. Okay, it's the Fonz. It's literally the Fonz saying there's an arsonist. Here's Andrew Huberman. Andrew Huberman is like deeply respected health and wellness dude. He's got a very successful podcast. He clearly follows me for all of my fitness knowledge. Okay, and all the profound knowledge that comes from a guy who eats frozen pizzas with my kids. People are lighting fires in otherwise non-burning urban areas of LA. Saw this happen firsthand at 302 Pico Street in Santa Monica. Called it in, fire department responded. Stay safe out there. Call in activity ASAP. We don't need more flames out here. So here's Huberman. Again, this dude is like a doctor and a scientist. Like, this is probably the most credible person you could possibly have posting a video on the internet, posting his own video of what doesn't look like a bunch of homeless people. He says some of these people started the fire. Just zooming in on his video there. He says some of the people in the video, actually, I watched them start the fire. These don't look like tweaking, degenerate, homeless vagrants. This looks like some type of sophisticated activity. What's the motive behind these arson attacks? I have no idea. But he says it's arson. So please be high IQ in this moment and recognize that what's going on here in LA is on purpose. Locals will fire your ass for this answer, okay? So I'm not above saying this is eco-terrorism. We've seen them do it before. We know that there are people who behave like terrorists that are currently in charge in Los Angeles and California. Here's Gavin Newsom saying, not my fault and not my job to fix the fire hydrants.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisades, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local
folks. The local folks will figure it out. Let's go really quickly to the local folks here, shall we? I mean, let's look at what things look like locally here. I'm telling you, this looks worse than any war zone in Ukraine. This looks worse than any front line in Ukraine right now. What's going on with these fires? So I have proof that they're being set intentionally. They're causing hundreds of billions of dollars in damage. Insurance companies will go bankrupt trying to pay for this. There's no water in the fire hydrants. And the mayor of LA, somebody named Karen Bass, has been on vacation in Africa. Vacation in Africa, you say? Why would somebody do that? It's like you clearly want the city to fail, and maybe she does. Let's make sure we have the video loaded up here, boys. Yep, got it. Okay, good. Yep. Karen Bass. Let's look into Karen Bass. Who's Karen Bass exactly? Karen Bass is like the final boss of DEI hiring. Karen Bass is somebody who's clearly and utterly low IQ. We have a clip to prove this, actually. Do we have the URL clip? Let's just begin with that. Okay. Here's Karen Bass trying to read a website. Okay, so let's start with, like, you would assume that your leader, the leader of one of the biggest cities in America, would at least have like the intelligence to be able to read a website. But here we go.
Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL. Los Angeles, together is how we will get through this.
URL. You can find me at URL. Got it? She's the lady in charge. She was in Africa, by the way, vacationing when there were already high incidents of fires and a high fire warning for her hometown. And she decided that was the time to go to Ghana. Why would she go to Ghana? Ghana is a clearly not the place you'd want to be found when your home nation is burning, but is that the bug or is that the feature for Karen Bass? You see, Karen Bass has a very strange history of wanting this country to burn, and she has terrorist associations in her background. Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't believe it when I read this, and we checked it all out, and it's 100% true. Disgraced mayor of LA, Karen Bass, traveled to Cuba repeatedly, including with radical leftist groups that supported Castro's communist regime. She worshipped Fidel Castro, and she also praised him upon his death. Then she worked with the far left-wing militia group that bombed the United States Capitol. Yet she was allowed, through the Democrat Party organs, to rise to extreme prominence and power, be appointed to various boards, serve in Congress, and now is the mayor of LA. Here's a little bit of Karen Bass's Marxist backgrounds. I can't believe it's real, and here we are.
November 7, 1983. Remember this date, but first, let me introduce you to Karen Bass. Back in the 1970s, community activist Karen Bass went on at least 15 trips to Cuba, many with a group known as the Venceremos Brigade, a Marxist group started by the Castro regime to subvert American interests, weaken democracies, and spread communism around the world. Founded in 1969, the Venceremos Brigade organized trips to Cuba every year for half a century. They attracted the most radicalized and delusional segments of the American left, including overtly Maoist and pro-Soviet communist groups. In fact, a Los Angeles police investigator who infiltrated the group testified to Congress saying that to be a member of the brigade, you had to be confirmed as a Marxist-Leninist, as a brigadista, and then moving up the ranks to organizer for the Venceremos Brigade. Karen Bass visited Cuba every 6 months. Their mission? To radicalize young, impressionable American leftists in terrorist tactics and guerrilla warfare. Members of the Venceremos Brigade were even taught how to make bombs.
Jesus Christ!
Karen Bass admits, on her many pilgrimages to Cuba, she went to see Fidel Castro speak several times, even calling him charismatic. And upon his death, praised him, saying, "The passing of Commandant en Jefe is a great loss to the people of Cuba, even though the people of Cuba see him as a dictator who impoverished their island." Another group, the M19, took its belief in revolutionary anti-imperialism to extremes, violent extremes. The M19 was the first and only women-created and women-led domestic terrorist group. Since their founding in 1978, M19's tactics escalated from robbing armored trucks and abetting prison breaks to building their own explosives and carrying out terrorist bombings. From 1983 to 1984, M19 bombed an FBI office, the Israel Aircraft Industries building, the South African consulate in New York, DC's Fort McNair, and Navy Yard, which they bombed twice. But that wasn't enough for them. On the night of November 7, 1983, the M19 called the US Capitol switchboard and warned them to evacuate the building. Minutes later, the M19 bombed the north wing of the US Capitol. November 7, 2023 marks 40 years since the M19's bombing of the US Capitol. Members of the M19, like Susan Rosenberg, traveled to Cuba with and were radicalized by the Venceremos Brigade. The South Los Angeles Venceremos Brigade was led by Karen Bass, who is now mayor of Los Angeles.
Yo, is there an actual Marxist takeover? Like, McCarthy was right. Like, was there, an actual Marxist takeover in this country, that's trying to burn this place down? So Karen Bass was, at the very least, allied with and or adjacent to the M19 terrorist group that bombed the U.S. Capitol, along with a bunch of other targets in America. How do people like this keep getting promoted through the Democrat Party ranks? How is it that eco-terrorists and literal Marxists, ISIS members keep rising up through these ranks and getting leadership positions? There's something sickening and deeply dark and wrong about this party. And now American people are suffering and will probably never get their houses back. Try getting through the regulations of California. Have your house burned down in California. It's hard enough to put up a post office box in front of your home. Like you have to go through like 17 different federal organs in order to get that box up in a place like California. You're paying 17% income taxes. You are oppressed by every conceivable environmental regulation. Within an inch of your life, you are regulated, taxed, overburdened, and utterly oppressed by your federal government. These people will never be able to rebuild their homes again. Maybe in 100 years, they'll finally get the permitting to build these neighborhoods back. They'll never be made whole again. And their leaders are quite literally silent. Here's Karen Bass. You don't have to play the same whole thing because it's like so humiliating. Karen Bass, on her way back from her vacation in Africa, surprised it wasn't Cuba or North Korea, given her communist background, but here she is at an airport. She's caught by a reporter. And Karen Bass stands there looking totally stupefied, unspeaking, unflinching. As the reporter asks her questions, look at the glaze in her eyes. The indifference of these sickening people. It's demonic. Here you go.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
And then they run away. Then she runs away. She gets followed by this reporter for another minute. Look at the cold expression and glassy eyes of somebody who just doesn't care. Indifference is possibly the most evil attribute you can have as a human being. It's what you see in the worst leaders throughout all time. It's not actual anger and rage, it's actually indifference to other humans suffering. That's the signs of a sociopath. Somebody who's not indifferent is President Trump, who has called, as of this morning, for Gavin Newsom to resign. President Trump has officially thrown the gauntlet down and said, Gavin Newsom must resign. Here, ladies and gentlemen, on Truth Social. One of the best and most beautiful parts of the United States, America, is burning to the ground in its ashes. Gavin Newsom should resign, and it's all his fault. President Trump going after also Karen Bass in a subsequent post. I can't move on without showing you this. David Muir, this charlatan, weasel, actor, is pinning back his rain jacket so that he looks more svelte on TV. You can see here clear as day, if we can zoom. You can see here clear as day. He has a pin on the back of his rain jacket. There you go. This is good enough. You can see the pin on the back of his rain jacket. This is a man who is allowed to host a debate with President Trump. People are literally being burned alive. Hundreds of billions of dollars of damage is being done. Hundreds of thousands of people have now fled their homes. And this twink is pinning his rain jacket back so that he looks slimmer in it. This is his concern. These are the people that we allow to interview our presidential candidates? No more. I'm telling you, no more. We have a pretty loud, and it's getting louder, and a pretty important, and it's getting stronger voice in this ecosystem with the freedom movement. And I will speak until my voice cracks to say that people like this should never be allowed to ask questions of our candidates ever again. This is the problem. The people who should be hosting presidential debates should be like Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and Tucker Carlson. And of course, you remember what happened when David Muir fact-checked Donald Trump's internal dialogue. Donald Trump said he was joking about something, and David Muir's like, "Oh, it didn't sound like you were joking." Among many other flaws, like not having any plan to fact check Kamala Harris. This is just, these people are despicable cretins. People are literally burning alive behind him, and all he cares about is that his rain jacket makes him look svelte. Oh, they're sickening. Oh, they're disgusting. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden also used this opportunity at the emergency center to announce that he's a great-grandfather. That's very, like, utterly inappropriate. I don't even want to play it for you. Makes me rage with anger. And I want to get to the final reason why all of this is happening. DEI and wokeness. The firefighters of LA have not only had their budgets cut by $18 million, but they've also been using their positions to attack white men, to attack meritocracy, to attack traditional toxic masculinity. You know, the kind of things that you need to fight fires. Like if there's a man who's going to carry you from a burning building, better be a dude who can like lift you up over his head. That's how this works, actually. But this department over and over and over again has decided to not put firefighting and life-saving as its main objective, but political masquerades. And you can see that in video after video after video. The Los Angeles Fire Department created its first DEI bureau with Chief Christine Larson, who rakes in $400,000 a year leading the bureau. Her job is to root out bigotry in firefighters. Here we go.
So I want to reach down and bring you up. And that's kind of something that stuck with me to this day.
Part of that work means speaking up for those who can't. Over the last few years, LAFD has dealt with a fair share of controversy, and Larson not afraid to sound the alarm.
I chose to speak out pretty much by myself about the issues of sexism and racism within my department and the need for change. I don't think there's any question that our
We need to change. There's too much firefighting actually going on and not enough hurt feelings fighting. Better to pin all of our rain jackets back. What we need tighter fitting rain jackets actually around here. I'll say this before we get to a very, very patient Chris Gore, who I'm really excited to speak with, who's a critic, professional movie reviewer in LA, who knows LA better than almost anybody and knows the LA ecosystem better than anybody, and who has had to evacuate his own house. I want to say this. What is happening is technically good. And while I have great empathy for the people in Los Angeles, and I don't want the working class people of Los Angeles to have to suffer. There are plenty of Republicans there. There are plenty of people who don't want this. Most people don't want this. And I think they'll get their chance for vengeance, actually. I think they'll get their chance to actually destroy the people politically forever who caused this all to happen. I've never seen so much rage online from like left-wing Hollywood celebrities. We're going to talk with Chris Gore about that. But I'll say this. I believe that these fires are burning something else to the ground far more evil than some of the political structures and some of the or far more megalomaniacal than just a single individual politician. It is the overarching ecosystem of wokeness that is being torched to the ground right now. DEI is dying today, starting with the 2024 election, moving through the ISIS terror attacks, where you had like these obscene FBI agents with nose rings and no qualifications, like saying it wasn't a terror attack. I mean, just like so humiliating. You have an 80-year-old police chief there in New Orleans. What the hell is going on? To these fires. Everybody, like the American public is no longer fooled. We will never again accept that you are somehow more qualified because of your skin color or who you like to have sex with. That's done. We've seen it kill enough people. We've seen it torch enough lives. We've seen it hurt enough people. We're no longer accepting that. Meritocracy and meritocracy only. If you want a job, show us the credentials. Show us you'll be able to do it. And show us you'll be able to do it well. And we just don't give a rat's ass about how much melanin you got in your skin, or what you like to do in your bedroom on Saturday night. It doesn't matter to us. It's not only unqualifying, quite frankly, like that ideology is disqualifying.